It was an ordinary night until it wasn't. The prestigious and wealthy Mrs. Brown, a well-known figure in the community, fell victim to a ruthless robbery. A seemingly impenetrable fortress of wealth and respect was breached, as the cold hands of crime closed around her. The ensuing chaos was a shocking wake-up call, echoing through the once tranquil neighborhood. Mrs. Brown was left more than just penniless. She was brutally beaten, a haunting testament to the savagery of her assailants. The community, once a cocoon of safety, was suddenly exposed to the harsh realities of a world that could breed such violence. Despite their best efforts, the initial police investigation proved fruitless. Each lead fizzled out like a dying ember, and the trail of the perpetrators grew colder by the day. The case, as cold as the icy winds of winter, was shelved, until a new detective arrived on the scene. Across from the crime scene lived Miss V, a blind lady long dismissed by the police, but she held a secret, a key that could unlock the mystery. Miss V, blind for over a decade, was an unseen witness in the truest sense. Her world was devoid of color, of light and shadow, but it was alive with sounds and scents that others often overlooked. She had tried to tell the police, to share her unique perspective, but they dismissed her. How could a blind woman identify a thief? Enter a new detective, one with an open mind and a fresh perspective on the case. He listened to Miss V, really listened, and found validity in her claims. He understood that while she couldn't see in the conventional sense, she had an uncanny ability to perceive the world around her in a way others couldn't. But convincing his colleagues wasn't easy. Skepticism echoed through the precinct. Laughter and disbelief filled the air. How could they trust the testimony of a blind woman? The detective, however, stood firm against the tide of doubt. He believed in Miss V, in her ability to identify the culprit. Miss V made a bold claim. "Bring your suspects to me. I will tell you who did it." Her confidence was palpable, her determination unwavering. This was her chance to prove her worth, to demonstrate that sight isn't the only sense that matters when it comes to solving a crime. And so they did. 10 suspects, all with their own stories, awaited their turn to walk past Miss V. Each took their turn in the spotlight, their footsteps echoing in the silence. One by one, they paraded before her, a symphony of shuffling feet and muffled breaths. Yet none of them sparked recognition until click, clunk, click, clunk. The sound was distinct, an odd rhythm that stirred her memory. Then a scent wafted through the air, unique and unmistakable. A cologne different from the others, one that she remembered well. It was him, the man from that fateful night. The rhythm of his walk, the scent of his cologne, it all came together in a crescendo of realization. As the last click-clunk faded, she raised her hand. With unwavering certainty, she pointed him out. "It's him," she said. The detectives were stunned. Could this blind woman have cracked the case that left them puzzled? In disbelief, they followed up on Miss V's identification. The suspect, a man known for his prominent limp and a peculiar cologne, was one of the 10 they had initially questioned. The detectives went back to the crime scene, searched for new evidence, and found the missing piece of the puzzle. A unique shoe print that matched the distinctive click-clunk rhythm Miss V described. They also discovered traces of a strong cologne, unusual for the crime scene, but unmistakably similar to the one detected by Miss V. With a newfound sense of optimism, they expedited the lab tests. The results were conclusive. The shoe prints and the cologne were an exact match with the suspect. Armed with this compelling evidence, the detectives swooped down on the suspect's residence. The man was startled, but the detectives were relentless. They presented the evidence, and under the weight of undeniable proof, the suspect crumbled. He confessed to the heinous crime, revealing the details that only the real perpetrator could know. The arrest was made. The community breathed a sigh of relief, and Mrs. Brown, the victim of the crime, finally found some peace. The detectives, once skeptical, were humbled by the blind lady's contribution. And so, the cold case was finally closed, all thanks to an unlikely heroine. Remember, justice isn't always seen, sometimes it's felt. Following the arrest, the community was in awe of the blind woman who had helped solve a crime that had baffled the detectives. Miss V, once an unseen witness, was now a celebrated heroine. The local council decided to honor her bravery and unique skill. They presented her with a reward, a token of the community's gratitude. The humble woman, who had lived a quiet life, now stood in the spotlight, her courage shining brighter than any accolade. Accepting the reward, Miss V spoke. Her voice was soft yet firm. "I didn't do it for the reward," she said. "I did it for justice, for Mrs. Brown." The crowd erupted in applause, their respect for Miss V deepening. She had shown them that courage and justice weren't about physical strength or sight, but about willingness and determination. As the applause faded, the crowd dispersed, leaving behind a humbled Miss V. She had shown them all that sometimes the most powerful sight is insight. So remember, never judge a book by its cover. If you were touched by this story, please like and share.